Studies show what we understand, we fear less, and therefore we're more open to it. Therefore, we have more probability and ability to believe in it, and therefore we're able to gain the value that is just sitting there waiting for us to tap into it.
You have to have an understanding of what is it that you're looking for. What do you want from this? How do you want your life to look? How do you want to be better? Hey everybody, this is Bianca.
And this is Emilia.
And welcome to another episode of Evolve Ventures, where we are making evolution possible for growth-minded humans, just like every single one of you, through vulnerable lessons, stories, and technology. We hope you enjoyed last week's episode 166. What is the quality of your relationship? That one was a heavy hitter.
It was.
I know I said that about like the few ones before that, but like this one, I had a lot of people reach out to me and was like, "Oh my God, I haven't thought of it that way. Like This really resonated with me." So
cool.
If you haven't listened to that episode yet, head on over to that one. So today, 167, Motivation Monday, why therapy never works.
Ooh.
I gotta be honest, I'm wicked excited about this one because obviously working as a mental health counselor, as a clinician, this is what I'm pulling this from is things that I've noticed with my own clients and with like my own experiences being in therapy and doing therapy and whatnot. And I know we've kind of experienced this with our clients, like our coaching clients too. Yeah. So I'm wicked excited for this one. And anyone who isn't from Massachusetts, wicked is it's wicked mass. So what we're going to be doing is basically saying the top 3 reasons why therapy never works and really diving into that. Obviously, Motivation Monday, we're going to keep this under 10 minutes. So I'm just going to dive right in. Number 1 reason, the number 1 reason why I notice people struggle and why they never get what they never feel like therapy works is because they are expecting the therapist to fix them. The way that you expect a medical doctor to just give you a pill and fix you. So this is exactly what I wrote. Expecting the therapist to fix you and the therapist always having a dead set game plan for every single session. So there is something to say that the therapist should be, thinking ahead, using the treatment plan, using the goals that you've set together to help you get the thing that you want. But I had a client, and this literally happened yesterday, and it's kind of why I'm cheesing a little bit. I was in therapy with a client yesterday, and I'm asking her, as I typically do, because I really try to make sure that when I'm working with someone that they are getting what they need from it, and if not, we'll course correct.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how are you doing? How are things going? How has therapy been? Because she started pulling away. And I'm tying 2 and 2 together. I'm like, we're hitting on some heavy topics. I think she's getting overwhelmed. Let me ask her how she's doing. And she was like, well, when I come into these sessions a lot of the time and you ask me what my intention is, I kind of don't like that because I'm like, well, isn't that your job? Like, isn't it your job to, to just come in here and tell me what to do and, to like,
fix me.
Yeah. She literally said, like, aren't you supposed to like fix me? And it was a really uncomfortable conversation because I kind of had to be honest with her. And I said, yes, me personally, with the type of work that I do, I'm not here to fix you, but I am going to guide you. So like, yeah, 100%. And I was like, here's the thing. I could come in every single session with an exact game plan of here's what we're going to do. Here's what I'm going to have you do. Here's the blueprint. You would be beyond overwhelmed and you would run away.
Yeah.
because that is traumatizing. That is extremely overwhelming. And I said that to her and she was like, yeah, honestly, you're right. But a therapist is not there to fix you. The way that like you go to a physical therapist, for example, and they're going to do stuff to you, right? Or that you're going to go to a doctor and you just tell them your symptoms and they have all the answers and they're going to give you a pill and everything is going to be fine. If you want therapy to work, it has to be a very hand-in-hand, collaborative, inclusive progress or process. And I'm sure you've experienced the same thing.
Oh, yeah. I like to think of the analogy when it comes to therapy. Well, first of all, before I get into that analogy, for all my visual learners out there, happy Monday, y'all. And on that, why is this beneficial for all of us? Because at one point or another in your journey, you're going to come either across this experience of like, ooh, therapy might be a really good idea for me, or ooh, therapy in this modality could really help me at this stage of my evolved journey. And we're so pro therapy because it's like I literally talk about this all the time, but my therapist is on my board of directors. Like, she is amazing because she helps me get perspective. And that's so, so important. Where to cue this analogy for all of our listeners to be able to really leverage this Motivation Monday, let it motivate you to see some of the benefits that you might be actually leaving on the table right now, or that if you hadn't listened to this episode, you could otherwise be. So the analogy that I see all the time with my clients is like the expectation, similar to like what you had mentioned with the doctors or a physiotherapist or whatever. It's like, I like to think about it along the lines of like a restaurant or like a nail salon. You go into the nail salon and you're like, okay, you know that you're going to sit there for like 4 hours or whatever. There's going to be some small talk. It might be semi uncomfortable, or like you just go in there and like, I don't know, put your face mask over on your phone, whatever. Like, you have an understanding of what the expectations are because you've been there before and it's been very similar experience day in, day out. And then by the time you walk out of the nail salon, you have a nice new set of nails or whatever. And you're like, oh baby, I look better. I feel better, all that stuff, right? Cue the instant gratification as you're walking out the door and literally sitting in that chair. Whereas with therapy and with coaching, it's literally the complete opposite. And
Absolutely
so the
not.
number one reason from my experience and standpoint, the reason why it never works with a lot of people and a lot of people have really negative experiences with it is because there's that expectation, right? Whether it be a restaurant or whatever, all of these other places and businesses that we are trying to solve or meet our needs in, it's very much an instant gratification. That's how the business model, that's how things work. Whereas in therapy and in coaching, it's actually quite opposite. Level setting the expectations up front is really important, and something that I do with my clients is because, number one, if you're going into therapy, this is deeply ingrained. It's somatic experiences. Your entire brain system and central nervous system is wired in a specific way, and that takes time. That takes collaborative effort to your component B, or to what you said, collaborative effort to be able to work through some of those things. And a lot of the times what I found, even before you can get there, you have to work through all the muck, you know, all of the protectors, all of the fears, insecurities, all of that stuff. So it's not like you can just go into one therapy session and expect your entire life to be fixed. And that's the number one thing from my end, where level setting the expectations. The biggest thing for me, what I see is why it doesn't work is because we don't understand how it works. And so one has to be open, willing, ready, capable, and have the capacity to receive the benefits of therapy. And a lot of the times we don't even understand how it works. Therefore, we always feel slighted. We feel jaded. We're wondering and bashing our heads up against the wall. Like, why is this so hard? Or why is this challenging? Why does this feel shitty in the moment? Pardon my friend. But why does this feel crappy right now? It's because you're actually working through the good stuff. So that's like what I like to say.
Going along with that and in tandem with that, my number 2 is you're not coming in with any clear intentions or goals for what you're trying to get out of therapy. Right. So think about it like going to a restaurant. If you just walk into a restaurant and you're like, I'm hungry. but it's like that's it.
They're like okay,
you just tell the server like, hey, I'm hungry. And they're like, okay. And then that's it. Like, I honestly, like, I know that seems so uncomfortable. I've had that happen with so many clients of mine where they're like, I'm miserable, I hate my life, but that's it.
Right.
Fix me. And I'm like, okay, but what are you trying to get from this? And what do you want to be different? How do you want to be better? Let's say a year from now, right? What do you want your life to look like? I don't know, just fix me. I've had people say that, and I'm like, listen.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously never like, hey, listen. But yeah. When you're going into therapy and when you're going to talk to somebody, you don't have to know everything right off the bat, right? Like if you are suffering, if you are struggling, and I know we're kind of making a joke out of this a little bit, or we're being playful. We're not making a joke out of it. We're being a little playful. It's okay if you don't know exactly what you want. Mm-hmm. But kind of tying into that other one where you're expecting the therapist to fix you, you have to have an understanding of what is it that you're looking for.
Yeah.
What do you want from this? How do you want your life to look? How do you want to be better? And having the vulnerability to even just say, hey, you know what? I don't know. Can we talk about it? Can we maybe come up with a game plan together? Because what I find is with a lot of clients who they expect the therapist to fix them and they don't have any goals, they expect that the therapist is just going to like hand them everything on a silver platter. And it's like, you're going to be fixed now. You're going to be healed and everything is going to be great. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't work that way. It really has to be a collaborative, hand-in-hand process where you and the therapist are working together on what it is that you want, on what you want your life to look like, on how you can get better in whatever way that looks for you. But you have to be willing to work with the therapist and create those goals together. And if the therapist is not doing that for you, which unfortunately, honestly, I talk about this a lot, that most therapists suck, and I'm just going to say it because it's true. A lot of therapists aren't trained to do that. A lot of like the old school, like psychodynamic therapists, for example, where they're learning like Freudian psychoanalysis or something, and I might get a lot of heat for saying this, but it just is what it is. That type of therapy isn't effective because it's like, I'm just going to lay on a couch and profess everything and nothing's actually going to change. A lot of therapists don't know how to do that. And so if you're not having a good connection with the therapist, if you are going in and you're like, hey, I have actual things I want to work on, I want guidance, I want feedback, I want to grow, and you're not getting that, then it might be time for you to look for another therapist, which I'm all for. Finding a good therapist is like dating. You have to find the one that's the right fit for you.
Yeah, that honors you. So real quick here, what I found is also, so number two is like people aren't doing the cost benefit analysis. So number one, when or if you go to therapy, which I highly encourage, and when you find a good therapist, you stick with it, and coaching, right? People aren't really calculating cost benefit analysis, right? A lot of people, because of the first thing that I said, instant gratification, we live in a world society where that's really encouraged. Growth, right? Like emotional change, all of these things that we're talking about, that takes time, right? And a lot of people look at their watch and like, I don't got that time, right? I have plans on the weekend. I have to do this. I have to do that, right? Life gets really, really busy. But what they're not weighing is the cost of not putting in that effort, of not setting that intention, of not realizing how much they have a part to play in all of this, right? And I think that if we were to be more cognizant, more aware of how much we are that team player and how much we have such an impact and influence on how our growth journey really evolves, and what the cost is if we're not paying attention to that component, I think that that's where I find a lot of people in this area of like, oh, well, therapy really never worked for me. That's why I'm super excited for coaching. And I'm like, all for it, all for that. I'm sure your therapist tried to the degree that they knew how. Now, what percentage would you take in terms of ownership for that going the way that it did? Like what the outcome was. And they're like, well, it's like a 50-50, what I hear with relationships all the time too. And it's like, you're 100% responsible for what you bring to the table. And most importantly, what you do after you leave that table with the new awareness, with the uncomfortable experiences, right? You're 100% responsible for that. So that I don't see happening a ton. And that's where people aren't getting the benefits that are really there.
That ties in really well to my last one, which is you just might not be ready for change yet. You might not be ready to do the work, to have the reflections, to look in the mirror and really say, what part did I play in getting here? And now that is not blaming the victim, right? If you have suffered a trauma and something has happened to you like that, that is not to say that it's your fault that that happened. But what responsibility can you take now? And with a lot of clients that I see, a lot of them that struggle making progress in therapy, it's because they're just not ready to do that work yet. And that's okay. Like, if you're not ready, that's okay. But you also have to understand that you're not going to see changes.
Yeah.
Like, I had this one client, we actually did an episode about this client, about forgiveness is for the other person, or for you, not the other person.
Yeah.
Where this client was absolutely unwilling to do any of the work that I had tried doing with him. He's had multiple therapists before and was just vehemently not ready and was actually like fighting me. Like, he was yelling at me one session because he was like, I'm not going to do what you're telling me to do. You need to give me something else to do to change. And I'm like, I felt so like, me as the therapist, I felt really helpless, and I felt so much empathy for him because it's like, you are suffering so much.
Yeah.
But you're not ready to actually take ownership of what happened to you. You're not ready to take ownership of the responsibility that you need to play in changing your life. And so if you are in therapy, I think having the clear intentions for what you're trying to get out of it is going to help with this. Because if you are going into therapy and you really do just want a standardized talk therapy where you're just going in and having someone to talk to and kind of get some validation and some feedback from, that's okay. That is absolutely okay, but you need to understand that. And then let the therapist know that. If you want real changes in your life, if you want real, growth and evolution, right? If you want to evolve, you have to know that. You have to be clear about your intention in that and be willing to do the work and take the accountability.
So a lot of the therapy techniques and skills that Bianca and I integrate into our practices really stem from the cognitive behavioral therapy, right? That's where you not only get into the thinking mind, the feeling mind, the body, but you then transition into action, right? Which kind of completes that neural feedback loop. And one of the biggest things that we obviously talk about on this show, which is my last one, and I will be done here, is the concept of belief as it pertains to therapy. A lot of people do not have positive experiences, do not have change, are unable to evolve because they, don't believe in therapy, right? Someone told them they had to go to a therapist. It was a force. It was a choice. Maybe it was the last ditch effort to try to evolve in whatever manner they were under pressure to evolve in. Say it's someone, who's on the brink of divorce and the wife or the husband says, if you don't go to therapy, insert ultimatum here, right? Or your professor or your colleague or someone in the family, like, if you do not go to therapy, then insert bad experience here, right? So a lot of people are on the brink of a really traumatic experience before they ever go. Why? Because turns out they didn't believe in it proactively and the benefits that they could gain in their growth journey by proactively going to therapy on their own accord without someone else pushing them in there. And I can speak from personal experience. I was under that pressure cooker at one point too in my life where someone was pressuring me to go into therapy because they thought it would solve my problems. I remember being a young girl, hands over my chest, being so closed off to therapy, and this poor therapist she was trying so hard to help me, but because I did not believe in it, because I was afraid of it, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the different modalities. I literally could not receive the value that she was willing to help me work through. And so the last thing that I'll say is you got to believe in its ability to help you, right? It might not be the specific modality that you've experienced, right? From my personal experience with therapy, I've realized it's not just talk therapy. There's different modalities, right? I deeply, deeply believe in CBT, ACT, and IFS. There's so many other modalities of therapy. It's kind of like different, like if you go to school, right? There's different courses that you take, and there's different majors and minors that you can minor in, right? So with that being said, believing in something, you got to feel an emotional connection and to the why you might be going in the first place, right? There might be a pain, there might be a struggle, or there might be something that you want to break in out of or into, right? Therapy can help you understand at such a deeper level instead of just the talk therapy or some of the things that maybe you have experienced in the past when you were under pressure, right? And now going. So if anyone is ever curious about the different modalities or want to understand it better, studies show what we understand, we fear less, and therefore we're more open to it. Therefore, we have more probability and ability to believe in it, and therefore we're able to gain the value that is just sitting there waiting for us to tap into it. And that's so powerful. So if you're someone that needs to learn more about it, we'll definitely have resources on Evolve Ventures, tech.com once our website is fully complete. So you can be sure to check out resources in that. But Bianca and I are always a DM away. You know, like I can't profess enough how much therapy has completely changed my life and will continue to do so. And so it's worked for me. It can work for you. It can work for everyone that listens to this. But hopefully you're not on the side of the fence of the three things that Bianca and I said. B, did you say a third?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I want to make sure. Cool beans.
Therapy is not this daunting, demoralizing thing that a lot of people think it is. It can be the most incredible experience. And I've had so many clients, and I'm thinking about one in particular, and I talk about her to Emilia all the time because
she's a fave.
She genuinely is one of my favorites. I've never seen someone who has been through more trauma than this one person. Like, I've never heard of a story more just unthinkable than what this girl has been through. And she is transforming her life, like making massive transformations, like hysterically crying in sessions because she's like, I never thought that I would get to this point.
Yeah.
If she can do that
in a positive way,
right. So can every single one of you. And you should. Like, honestly, you only have one life. Why not do everything that you can to make it incredible? So reach out to Emilia, reach out to myself if you're interested in, learning more about this, maybe with working with us. We have group coaching coming. We have Out of the Mud coming. We have so many offers and services and every type of interaction that we offer, free or, paid. But there's so much out there that you can do and so much you can benefit from. And it really can help you become the person that you want to be and have the types of relationships that you want to be and have and all of that. So this definitely was more than 10 minutes, but this is something we're insanely passionate about if you can't tell. So, what is your episode suggestion?
Mine is 110. Why don't I feel good enough? How about you?
146 signs it's time to reach out for help.
Hey.
All right. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope it was beneficial. DM Emilia and myself if you want more information, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.